The challenge before us is really the same challenge that we had between 1890 and 1920, when the nation had similar levels of non-English speakers coming into the country. And at that time, that's when we got kindergarten, that's when we got after-school programs, that's when there was a lot of civic engagement to try to bring people into the mainstream of American society. And we have the same challenge today.
The Common Core is really the third wave of what you'd call standards-based reform. We started this after this Nation at Risk. This takes us back, way back in history, the 80s. That led in the Clinton administration to a bill, the reauthorization of ESEA during the first term of the Clinton term was the Improving America's Schools Act, which introduced the idea of state standards and also introduced the idea of inclusion of English language learners in the reform effort. And the standards were state by state. It is what it was in that era. Standards 2 came with what we now know as NCLB, No Child Left Behind. And that was the Bush 2 first term effort at standards-based reform. And that sort of was the second push, right, at trying to use standards to reform instruction, improve achievement, and so forth. And that included some other things. It included accountability, right? So this is where the whole program improvement and all these things came about. It also brought in, under Title III, which is the English learner part of the bill, accountability for English language proficiency development. So that's what brought all of the states English language proficiency standards. What we've done, I think, is, English learner issues started back in the Civil Rights Movement and was sort of often an afterthought in reform thinking. And having been through 3 cycles of this already, I would say that in the first wave, the train had way left the station when English learner thinking entered the scene. In Reform 2, I think we were sort of part of the discussion, but it was still kind of late. And now I think we're in the mix with all of the people trying to implement Common Core in a kind of problem solving. We've sort of committed to doing the Common Core in all these states, but what are the challenges and the opportunities for English learners? And what I'm going to say, and what will be demonstrated, I think, in the presentations later on this morning, is that the Common Core is indeed requires a major shift in instruction in order to get students to achieve at a high level.
So standards drive everything. I think you need to really think about this carefully. Once you've changed your standards, if you have an aligned, coherent system, everything else must be aligned to the standards. So now if you shift over to the left, you'll see our statewide assessment programs. The California Standards Test must go away. It is a multiple choice assessment that does not align with the standards. So California has contracted with federal money for a group of 24 other states with they call the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium. We are a leader and on the governing board of that group. They are going to do all new assessments that will be, I want to stress, computer adaptive. Students will take assessments and the computer will adapt them. If you're doing poorly, it'll shift you down. If you're doing well, it'll shift you up. So we will know a lot more about what you know and not as much about what you don't know as we mostly do now. As you know, the current system has tests in biology, chemistry, world history. None of those are aligned to the Common Core standards. So you can't run a state policy when your system is not aligned. So we will be overhauling those. Those will proceed through the State Board of Education, and the superintendent will be making the recommendations, and then they will then go into the legislature. And so this will be a huge story, and parents will be amazed at how different the new assessments are compared to what they're getting now, and the computer adaptive assessment.
And really our goal is to try to push journalists to cover Latino issues more as our country, of course, becomes more diverse. And so you might have noticed earlier I actually live in Texas, which does not want to participate in the Common Core, which is kind of funny. So that's why I ended up speaking with the Miami-Dade school officials instead. So as Pia mentioned, Miami-Dade has about 70,000 English language learners and an enrollment of about 350,000. So that means ELLs are about 20% of their population. And really, when I spoke with them, you know, a lot of what they're talking about at this point is trying to figure out and roll out like training for the teachers to inform them about what this means. You know, while they're still, you know, not sure what the test is going to look like and everything themselves. And so last year they had rolled out Common Core standards for kindergarten and first grade, and this year second and third grade. So good question, you know, if you're a reporter elsewhere in the country, is at what, with what grades is your district rolling out, or state rolling out these standards with, because different districts are focusing in different areas.